Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. So today's topic, we're going to talk about training, and we're covering the question of how heavy should I train when preparing for a contest. So this is for aesthetic sports, so like bikini, figure, physique, classic physique, men's bodybuilding, men's physique, all this stuff. So I help clients with strength competitions and aesthetic sport competitions. So I like to kind of specify a little bit about which audience I'm talking to. So this is for aesthetic athletes. So the question kind of came up. I was talking with a client. We're preparing for the Arnold Amateur coming up here in a couple weeks, or like 2 weeks. And we were just talking about our opinions and approaches towards like the final last 4 to 8 weeks of training. So this client has competed before. He's actually coached other people, so he's a trainer, and so he's very familiar with everything we're doing. It's just always helpful to have another set of eyes, another opinion and or kind of viewpoint on training. So I help him just do more of the stuff he probably already knows how to do. So, but it is fun to work with another trainer, and actually half my clients are trainers, so it's super fun. We were talking about our differences of approaches back in the day versus nowadays. Now, I'm only 36, so I'm not that old, but I have been training people for 18 years, and I've been helping people get ready for contests for over 10 years. So it's something I do and I've done for a long time, and I've seen kind of the trend of thought take cycles through the industry as to what people say doing this, then it phases away from that because everybody's trying to be extreme in the other direction because they want to stand out and be popular. And then they go back to the original because old school works best, and it just cycles through like crazy. So what we've typically did when we first started out, and what everybody kind of the gurus told us to do, was to do kind of really high volume work. You do lots of drop sets, lots of repetitions. And the idea of that was it was supposed to kind of help separate the muscles, get that last little fine tuning of definition and tightness. It was supposed to be the thing that you did towards the end of the programming. So the last 4 to 8 weeks to refine the physique you had. Well, we found out that pretty much leaves everybody flat. You have a hard time retaining muscle mass. They might come in lean, or they might come in actually under trained, in a sense that they'll be flat, and you'll have a lot of weird problems with any kind of carb loading. If you do carb loading, you don't have to do carb loading. By no means is that necessary. Often you can just make people eat right, and then you just do that the whole freaking way into the show. So sometimes you can carb load, depends on the person's body type and where they started and what kind of body fat levels and blah 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 blah. So but in general, what we'd find is that doing really high volume, lots of drop sets, and kind of abandoning heavy things to get more and more volume and more work in was actually a negative. So again, the question we're looking at today is how heavy should I train when preparing for a contest? So it used to be that you would pull away from some of the heaviness. You don't want to get injured. There's no point anymore. You're so low in calories, your body can't possibly build any new muscle. Why even bother? It helps you get the cuts and the definition, It turns out all that stuff was, there are some degrees of truth, but it was not true. So in the way it was presented as being an all or nothing type response. So what the client and I were finding was our clients were getting much better results by keeping heavy stuff in. So we would just maintain the normal volume. We would have done the whole damn prep. We would have still lifted really heavy, and we would have kept more heavy based techniques to get any kind of increases in volume if we wanted, such as rest pause, which is a heavy based technique compared to drop sets. So drop sets, you're going to get a lot more repetitions, but the weight gets lighter and lighter and lighter. Whereas rest pause, you keep the same freaking weight you have, you just try to sneak out a few extra reps. And what that does is it maintains a heavier weight load on the system. It gets muscle damage, severe, good, high quality muscle damage, rather than just work. We're not looking for work. So what ends up happening when you go towards high volume type activities is, since calories, as you get further down in a diet, okay, get leaner and leaner, everything gets tighter and tighter, calories become more and more scarce in regards to what level of calories is available for muscle repair and muscle growth and muscle maintenance. So the excess of calories of diets becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. Your body's ability to pay attention to how many nuances of things are going on in terms of like growing your hair, your skin, your nails, regulating pH in your blood, like body temperature, like is it fixing and repairing muscles? Is it doing this? Is it doing that? Is it, functioning your kidneys today? It has a million things to do, and it's becoming harder and harder for the body to figure out what is necessary to maintain. So if you do high volume stuff, you're just making it harder for the body because you're taking more and more calories away from it. And if you're doing high volume, you're actually lessening the actual degree of stress that the body feels towards improving muscular size and strength. What you eventually do is you tell your body is, hey, maintaining my muscle is good enough. And the body says, well, I don't know if I really have a lot of calories for that, so let me just maintain just the bare minimum of what you actually use. So if your training isn't absolutely freaking perfect, and I promise you it's not, because no one can ever be perfect. So you're never going to get down to the very minute of a single muscle cell being recovered the very second it's recovered, you train it again. Never going to happen with every single muscle fiber in the entire body. So there are going to be time periods where a muscle is kind of underused. There are going to be time periods where muscles are overused. So when you have a very tight caloric window in regards to recovery and maintenance and growth, anything the body can do to kind of lessen the muscle mass, lessen its caloric demand via muscle, it will do it. Okay? So if you tell it, hey, maintaining is good enough, it'll do a shit job of maintaining. If you stay heavy and you do really heavy lifts, and you continue to show your muscle, holy shit, like you show your body, holy shit, we really need this muscle. We have to have this muscle. He's putting heavy things on us, or she is putting heavy things on us all the freaking time. We have to have this muscle. We have to have this muscle. We have to have this muscle. Then it'll do a much better job of maintaining the muscle if it feels like it's absolutely necessary. Versus if you're doing a lot of high rep, high volume stuff, it's going to say, hey, he would like to keep, or she would like to keep this muscle. Therefore, it won't do as great of a job. So it's the intensity, okay? If I told you I wanted you to do something by next week, or if I told you if you don't get that thing done, I'm going to take $1,000 from you. Well, now you're going to get it done. So you have to create intensity. You have to create urgency. By maintaining heavy weight loads through your prep, you maintain that sense of urgency towards muscle maintenance. And by not doing a million reps of a bunch of burnout stuff, you're actually allowing your body to have a little bit of extra recovery ability towards the maintenance of muscle. Not so much towards like cardiovascular stress or metabolic overall type stress. So you're just creating the damage, you're letting the body deal with that damage, and that's going to help you maintain the muscle that you want. So sometimes people will wonder, well, what if I need to get lean? Well, muscle damage makes you lean, not endless stupid shit, okay? So you shouldn't use your training as cardio. You shouldn't use your training as how many calories can I burn during this hour. You want to ask yourself, how much muscle damage can I produce? So my body has to burn calories to repair this muscle for the next 12, 24, 36 hours, not this 1 hour. So that was the mistake people would make, was they used to use their training sessions as how many calories can I burn during this session? When instead the question should have been, using this session, how many calories can I require my body to burn to recover from this session? So what can I do during this session to increase my caloric burn during my recovery phase? Not how many calories can I burn right now. So it's important that you have to remember that what built the muscle is what will keep the muscle. If big, heavy, hard things built the muscle, big, heavy, hard things will maintain the muscle. So that is the goal. We need to stay heavy and challenging in our training, even though it's the last 4 to 8 weeks. There's absolutely no reason to back off on weight. So I've had clients do like freaking 3 rep maxes on deadlifts like 2 weeks out from a show. Now that's a little bit bonkers. That's a crazy example. But it wasn't like they were doing an all-out horrible form, god-awful, ugly mess and their back was fried and they had a bunch of water stress in their back and legs for the last 2 weeks. But it would have been a really heavy, maybe set of 3 at a weight they typically could do for 5. But it's nice heavy weight. It shocks the body a little bit. It reminds the body that the muscle it has is needed and will be used. So it needs to maintain it. So an example of a leg workout that I would take someone through, even during the last, like, say, 4 weeks of a prep, is we would come in, we would do some type of movement preparation, and that might involve like Cossack squats. There's different types of Cossack squats. You can do progressions based on the person's ability, but a Cossack squat's a great way to open up like your adductors, groin, hamstring, hips, really get some good movement quality in there. We might circuit that with some dumbbell, like one arm hang hold side lunges, and then maybe some hyperextension like glute raises on a 45 hyper. So that way they get their hips opened up, they get adductors, hamstrings, blood flowing through the hips, everything loose. They do the side lunges to work on a little bit of groin stretching and contracting, to that way it prepares them better for heavy squats. And then we do glute raises on the hyperextension to warm up the glutes and actually work on activating tight core. So then we'll go to a superset of maybe barbell squats and leg press. So the barbell squats, we might do 5 sets of 3 at a weight they could typically do for 5. So they can do for 5 reps, we're only going to do 3 reps. It's still heavy as shit, okay? We're going to pair that with maybe leg press for 5 sets of 12, which is a very heavy leg press, by the way. And they're going to go to near good form failure, maybe a weight they really could do for 14 or 15, but they're getting pretty good up there in terms of like difficulty and challenge. So we might do that for supersets, barbell squats and leg press. Then we might finish with some higher reps on like a hack squat and dumbbell stiff leg deadlifts. So that way we got the quads, we got the hamstrings, we got the glutes, we got all the small muscles around the hips. Maybe the hack squat and the dumbbell stiff leg deadlifts we might do for a couple sets of 12 to 16 reps, a couple sets of 16 to 20 reps. But that's an example of a workout I would take someone through in the last like 4 weeks. It'd be fine. There's nothing wrong with that workout. So it helps improve mobility with that first circuit we did, helps open up any tight muscles, helps ensure that the joints are even, the musculature to the joints are even, so we have even positioning, even recovery. We're not going to move improperly during heavy movements, so we're going to make sure the joints are all balanced and even out. Then we go do heavy squats, and that reminds the body that all the freaking muscle, even the muscle in its core, in the obliques, the abs, the glutes, all the small little things, the small things and the big things all need to stay. We superset that with leg press because it's good muscle damage. So you could argue that sets of 3 on squats isn't really long enough time under tension to create muscle damage. I'm going to say kind of BS on that because we're going to do enough sets of it. So you're right, if we only did 3 sets of 3, that might not be enough. But if we did 5 sets of 3 or 6 sets of 3 or even 8 sets of 3, you can make up volume, time under tension volume, by doing more just sets. Doesn't always have to be the repetitions that you're basing time under tension on. So we would do enough sets to make up for the lower reps. And then by pairing it with something like leg press, you're going to get the damage you need out of those 2 combination anyhow. Then you add in the hack squat and the hack squat and the stiff leg deadlifts, and you get more and more muscle damage. So the goal there, you can see it's just 3 units of work. So you have the movement prep, which would be the Cossack squats, side lunges, and glute raises. Then you go to a superset of squats and leg presses, then a superset of hack squat and stiff leg deadlifts. Totally fine. That workout's going to take maybe 50 minutes, maybe an hour. It's going to be great. Enough workload in that hour to burn some calories, but we don't even really care about that. We just want to create a shit ton of muscle damage, because the muscle damage is what will burn the calories over the next, 24, 36, 48 hours. So we want the calories burned during recovery. That's our concern, not the calories burned during the session. And if you go listen to podcast number 181, titled Using Muscle Damage for Fat Loss, we talk about the science of why muscle damage helps towards fat loss. So the biggest mistakes people make when they're trying to get ready for a competition is they forget that what built the muscle will keep the muscle. If you lifted heavy to build muscle, lift heavy to keep the muscle. They also will start using their weight training sessions as cardio sessions. That is not appropriate. Your weight training is not cardio. Your weight training is to create muscle damage, so that way you can burn calories, burn body fat off while you're repairing that muscle damage. So maximize muscle damage, and you'll maximize your fat loss. Okay? Those are the things you want to remember. We'll build it, we'll keep it. Don't use your weight training as cardio. Now, if you're afraid of an injury, First of all, if you're lifting with good technique, the injury is ridiculously unlikely to happen. So just because you're in the last phases of a diet and you don't have a lot of body fat on you, your excuse me, your hydration should still be fine. Excuse me 1 second. I'm getting over ear infection, chest infection. So the hydration should be fine in your proper nutrition. You should have properly fueled fats and carbohydrates to fuel the workout. Proper protein to repair after the workout. So if your nutrition is on point, which it should be, then your training can continue to be this way. Okay, be aggressive, just like it was, quote unquote, in the off season or the building phase. So, if you're afraid of injury, as long as your food is right, you'll be fine. But if you want to, don't decrease weight on heavy lifts. Just decrease reps. So if you typically can, chest press 100-pound dumbbells for 6, just press them for 3 or 4 reps. But still get under the 100 pounds. Still put that weight load on your bones, on your muscles, on your nervous system. Remind the body that that muscle is necessary, okay? Pull some reps out of your sets, but do more sets. So instead of, 4 sets of 6, do 6 sets of 4. Okay, that'll be totally fine. You can then actually increase the stress tension on your isolation movements if you wanted to. You don't have to add weight, but you maybe add rest pause. So if you've been doing leg extensions for sets of 20, keep the exact same weight, but do it for 24 reps or 26 reps or 28 reps. Maybe you have to take a small little break during the set to do that, but that's going to push that muscle further into muscle damage. You're going to get the damage that'll keep the muscle you want. So that's how we do it. If you want to, again, answer the question, how heavy should I train when preparing for a contest? How heavy you train to getting into the contest? Okay, so what build it will keep it. Don't use your training as cardio. Use it to create muscle damage. Muscle damage will make you lean. Muscle damage and heavy weights will make sure you're rock hard and right at the competition, not soft and flabby and thin. So, if you want any help or if you have any questions, you can always reach out to us. Our email is brutaliron@gmail.com. So we do help people for programming. We've helped people get pro cards. So I did their nutrition and training, everything, and showed them how to pose. Got them pro card. So if you want help with programming, we're well qualified and we're happy to do it. If you just have some general questions, you can shoot them to us. We'll get you the answer, or maybe we'll make a podcast out of your question. But your support for information is right here. We're here and we're happy to help. So reach out with anything you need. Again, our email is brutalirongym@gmail.com. If you like the podcast, please share it with family and friends. The more people we help, the happier the world will be. Also, if you like this information, you can find more from us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Brutal Iron Gym. And if you have any questions, feedback, or suggestions, we'd love to hear from you. The podcast is for you, so we want to know what you want to learn about. You can tell us at our email at brutalirongym@gmail.com. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening. And thank you for watching.